Hello students, welcome to Exam Tuition Center. My name is Emmanuel Mbao. If you check, we have the given question on the board. So if you check, we have the epigeometry question for 2021, which is full certificate for paper 2. So if you check, like under epigeometry, if you want to solve the question under epigeometry, first of all, you need to know the formulas. So I can give you the formulas on how you can find the position with in a small circle or a big circle. So a small group over here. So if you check, this is the equator. Okay, you have the equator and you have the longitude. So this is a line of longitude, and if you check this line, a line of latitude, the latitude. Here it's north, here it's south. Then if you check, here is west, then here you have east. Okay, the side you have east. But according to a mathematician, first of all, you need to know the formulas. So for you to know the formulas, which means if you check, here it's a latitude, the line of latitude, even here it's a line of latitude. If you check even the equator here. So mind you, if you check, here it's a line of longitude. Okay? So we have the small circle and the big circle. If you check, the longitude here are big circles, then the latitude here are small circles. If you check the latitude here are small circles, even here. But mind you, the equator here, it's representing the big circle, because when the distance from here to here, they're just one and the same. So when you're finding the position on the equator, like for example, you have A and B here. When you're finding the position on the equator, which means you need to introduce the formula for finding the distance between big circles. Because the equator and the longitude, they are big circles. If you have the continent, see the point here, even here, the point here, or even here. If you check here, it's a big circle. When you have the point from here to here, if you check, it's a small circle. If you have the point from here to here, again, it's a small circle. So I can give you the formulas. I can say for small circle, distance, when you're finding the distance between small circles, so small circles, you have this formula, you say you have distance is equal to what? You have theta over 360 multiplied by 2 pi r, then you say you have cos x. The cos x is representing the same thing you cancel like for the same spheres. You know how you can use this formula. If you check, you have this formula for big circles, which we call it great circles. So for big circle, so for big circle, you have this formula, okay? You say distance is equal to what? You have theta over 360 degrees multiplied by 2 pi r. That's all for big circles. If you check again, they can ask you to find the perimeter or the length of the given question. So for the perimeter or length, you have this formula. You say length or perimeter or circumference, you have 2 pi r, then you say cos theta. Okay, so this is the formula, is representing length, perimeter, or circumference. So under geometry, which means you need to know this formula, they can ask you to find the distance between small circles or the distance between big circles. So I will explain on how you can find the distance between big circle and the small circle. So let's try to stick to our question. So if you check, the question needs the point P, Q, R, and T are on the surface of the Earth as shown. So in the diagram below, take 5 with 3.142 and radius in unit for mouse is the 437. Then if you check here of P, here you have Q, here you have T, here you have R. If you check P and R, they are on the latitude which is 70 degree north. Then if you check the P, it's on longitude which is 60 degree west. If you check the R here again, the same latitude line which is 70 degree north, then the longitude you have 55 degree east. So they are just one and the same here. You have 40 degree south. Then the longitude here of 50 degree, 55 degree east, the longitude here of 60 degree west. So like, according to our first question, so the first question is coming to math. So determining the difference in longitude between Q and R. So if you check, we need just to find the difference between Q and R. So for you to find the difference between Q and R, if you check Q is here, R is here. So let's solve. Let me try to get the space here. So for finding the difference, you need first to list the position. So when you list the position, which means now you can find the same difference. So if you check, I can say solution, which is question 1. So first of all, according to our question of 2 meters, we have QR. So let's take the position of R and the position of, let's take the position of Q and R. So Q and R. So you can list the position of Q. So for you to list the position of Q, which means you need to start with the line of latitude. So the line of latitude here, if you check the Q, you have 70 degree what? North. So you say you have 70 degree north, comma. If you take the longitude now, we start with the latitude, comma, longitude. The longitude of Q, you have what? You have the longitude of Q, which means you have 55 degree east. So you have 55 degree east for the longitude. If you check for the R again, let's start with the latitude. You start with the latitude, comma, longitude. So the latitude line of R, which means you have 40 degrees south. So you say you have 40 degree south, comma. If you check the longitude of R again, it's laying on the same longitude, which means you have 55 degree east. So you have 55 degree east. Okay, then if you check, yes, here you have 70 degree north, here you have 40 degrees south. If you check here 55 degree east, here 55 degree east. So which means your hemispheres this side are same. So under epigeometry, if you want to find the difference, which means you need to cancel the same hemispheres. So for you to cancel the same hemispheres, you can say, if you take 55 degrees and 55 degrees, they are same hemispheres. So which means you can cancel the same hemispheres. Okay? And if you check here, since here you have 70 degree north, here you have 40 degrees south, which means we need to add, because the hemispheres this side are different. So it says 70 degree plus 40 degree. When the hemispheres are different here, which means you need to add. Are you getting?
Yes.
Okay? Then if you check, here you can have the same hemisphere. Like for example, this side you have 70 degree north, and the second one you have 30 degree north. So if you check when the hemispheres here, they are laying on the same, on the north, they are laying on the same hemisphere, like the north here is the same hemisphere, but if you check the numbers, the figures are different. So I can say, okay, it was laying on the equator. Okay, let's say the longitude, it was 10 degree east, even here 10 degree east. This is our example. So I can say, okay, you cancel the same hemispheres. If you check here 10 degrees, which means they are same hemispheres. If you check here 70 degree north, here 30 degree north, which means they are not the same, but only the hemispheres are the same, but the numbers are different. But if you check here, the number, the hemispheres are the same, which means you need to cancel the same hemispheres. So when you cancel the same hemispheres here, if you check since here you have 70 degree north, so you get a big number minus a small number when they are laying on the same line. Are you getting what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah. But if you check, according to our question, since we need to find the difference, yeah, which means when you check the hemispheres this side, they are different. So which means we need to add. So as a mathematician, when you say let's add 0 plus 0, you have 0. Then when you say 4 plus 7, which means you have what? 11. So you can say you have 110. So 110 was difference between the Q and R. Are you getting what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so this one was your first calculation. Like for the second question, let's try to do the question. So do you have any question? Like for this question, do you have any question?
No, sir. It's
Okay.
clear.
Then for second question, they are saying, so find the length of the circle of latitude 40 degrees south, okay, in Newton miles. So like what I was saying, the formula for finding the what's this, the length of perimeter, they're just one and the same. So you can say perimeter length or circumference, okay. So you say you have 2 pi r, then you have cos theta. So which means the theta here is the given number. The same number you have in your question, which is 40 degree south, it's now your theta. So like for you to solve this question, you can say, since you're finding the length, so you can just pick L because you're finding for the length. So you just pick letter L. So you say you have 2. Then if you check the pi, you have what? The pi you have 3. So you say multiply. The pi you have 3.142. Multiplied by the radius is our radius in Newton miles. You have the radius in Newton miles. The radius was 37 in Newton miles. Okay, so the radius was 37 in Newton miles. Then multiplied by, if you check the 2 here is the same 2, the pi here and the r, the radius. So if you check, you have the cos now. If you check, since you have the given number already, which is what? 40. So the 40 degree south here. Then just use a calculator for you to punch. Okay? Just use a calculator for you to punch. Yeah, you can just use a calculator. Since me I'm using my calculator. So I can punch everything here. I can say I have 2 multiplied by 3.142 multiplied by 37 in Newton miles. Then I have the cos now, which is cos 40. So, which means of this figure. So I can say my length, for my length I can say length I'm having, okay, there's a comma here. Then we have the point here. So this is our figure. So if you check the unit, you have what? You have NM, which is unit per miles. Okay? So now let's try to put our answer to 3 significant according to the XZ rules. So if you check for the 3 significant figure, you can have the point or you cannot have the point. So you count starting from the first, you say 1, 2, 3. So this is my 3 significant figures, not 3 decimal places, but 3 significant figures. If you check the number behind here, it's a small number, you cannot round off, you cannot get 1 because the number is less than 4. Is it clear?
Yes.
So the number less than 5, you cannot get 1 to add from the first number which is here. So which means if you check, according to a 3 significant figure, you can say you have 6, 5, then you say NM, which is neutral amounts. Okay? So for question 2, which means we are done, this is our answer. So here is 2 mark, even here is 2 mark, which is 4 mark. Then if you check again, do you have any question for question 2? Do you have any question?
No, sir.
No question? Okay, let's try to find our last question now. So for our last question, we have been told to calculate the distance. So the distance between TR in what? In unit commands. So let's try to check our TR. If you check our TR here, it's on a what? On a small circle. So which means we need to introduce the formula for finding the distance in a what? In a small circle. So I can try to create the space. Since I'm finding the distance. Okay, first of all, let's list the position of T and R. T and R. This is our question 3. So if you check, you start with the latitude, comma longitude. For T, you have what? The same 40 degree what? South, comma the longitude of T, you have what? Which means you have 60 degree what? West. So you say you have 60 degree west. Then if you check for the latitude of R, since you have T and R, you say again you have 40, you start with the latitude, comma longitude, 40 degrees south, comma the longitude you have what? 55 degree what? East. Okay? If you check the hemispheres now, the same hemispheres are this side. Okay? If you check the same hemispheres, they are in this side. So which means you can say the 40 degrees south and the 40 degrees south here, they are same hemispheres. Then you cancel the ones with the same hemispheres. Is it clear?
Yes.
If you check this side, the hemispheres are what? Are different. When the hemispheres are different, which means you need to do what? To add. So I can say 60 degree plus what? 55 degree. Okay? So let's add as a mathematician. Since it's a paper 2, I can use my calculator. I can say 60 plus 55. Okay, which means 115. 115 degree. So the 115 degree was the difference between T and what? R. So here it was a difference. Your difference, which means it's a theta. Okay, the T and R is representing the theta. The angle between T and R. If you check T and R, which means the angle here between. The angle between T and R, you have 115 degree, which means the angle between T and R. If you check the T somewhere here, okay? The difference between T and R, you have 115 degree. So now, since your position, according to our question of been told to calculate the distance. So which means we need to introduce the formula finding the distance. Okay? So I can try to create the space. So we can find the distance between T and R. So if you check, they are lying in a small circle. So you introduce the formula finding the distance between small circles. So you say distance is equal to what? You have theta over 360 degree. Multiplied by 2 pi R, then you have the cos. So I want to use the theta here because when I use the theta, I'll be confused because there's a theta here and even here there's a theta. You have a question?
Yes.
Okay.
So what you mean by the small circle represents the latitude?
Yes, if you check here, the line here, it's a latitude line.
Yes.
Here it's a longitude line, even here it's a longitude line. If you check here again, it's a latitude line, here it's a longitude line. If you check the equator here, on the equator, you have the equator here. You can say equator is 0 degree, okay? So if you check here, yes, it's a line of latitude. But the distance between, if you check the distance between this equator and the distance between the longitude, they are just one and the same. Example, when you get the tomato, you have the tomato of 2 equal parts. If you check, when you cut your tomato this side, here you cut it this side. If you check, they're equal in size. So when you take this part you can have this kind of shape. Okay? If you take this part, I'll take this side and this side. I take this side again. So if you check the distance between, the diameter between this one, the diameter here, and the diameter here, they're just one and the same. No wonder we are saying, whenever you are calculating the distance between the equator, which means we need to introduce the formula finding the distance of the big circle. Is it clear? Because the diameter, they are just one and the same. When you cut it here, or when you cut it here, they are just one and the same. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay? Okay, we can proceed? Yes. We can proceed, we can proceed, we can proceed. So let's proceed. So if you check now, we are calculating the what's this. We are calculating the same figure I've cancelled here. When I put the theta here and the theta here, you get confused because you have the theta and the theta. But the first theta here is a difference, TR, the difference which is 115 degrees. So here, I'll separate the theta here, I'll put the cos x to represent the same number I've cancelled this side. Is it clear? Okay. Yes. Then if you check, you have 2 multiplied by the pi, you have 3.142 multiplied by the r, you have in Newton miles, which is 7 Newton miles. Then you have the cos what? The cos x, the same number I've cancelled here. I've cancelled number what here? Which is 40 degrees. Are you getting what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, then now here it's a formula between what? It's a small circle. Okay? The latitude here is a small circle. The longitude here are big circles. If you check the equator again, it's a what? It's a big circle or great circle. Okay? It's a big circle or great circle, the equator. So if you check now, we can just use a calculator. You can punch it direct if you want. So if you want, you can say you have 115, then you say you place AB/C, then you say, so you can say 115 AB/C, which means more vacant plus east. Then multiplied by 2, multiplied by 3.142. Then if you check, you have 34, 37 Newton miles. Then if you check, you have cos what, which is 40. Okay? So I punched direct, which means I have this figure. When you punched direct, so when you punched direct, you have this figure. You can say distance is equal to 1.537917316. Okay? You put the units. Since the unit you have what? Newton miles. So the final mass of the distance is equal to what? Let's try to put the answer in this significant figure. So you count 1, 2, 3, it's somewhere here. Then if you check, the second here is a big number, is greater than what? 4, which means you can get 1 to add from here when you want to put in 3 significant figure. So which means you have 1.5, when you get 1 you add here to be what? 4. Then you put what? Newton miles, which is the NM. So which means I'm done solving my question. So if you want to get a distinction, please try to follow us on our page, Exam Tuition Center, and Manuel Lao. Bye-bye.